a mighty empire, more powerful than any that came before it, a utopia of wealth, wisdom, and beauty. Until one day, in a single night, it vanished beneath the sea. Was Atlantis a real place? A cautionary tale? Or something stranger? Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Wild Archive. I'm Tyler, and today we're diving deep into one of history's greatest mysteries, Atlantis. From Plato's writings to the wild theories of aliens and psychic visions, this lost world has fascinated humanity for over 2,000 years. So, today we're going to be talking about Atlantis. Now, for those of you who were born in the 90s, late 90s, and you grew up with watching, the old Disney movies like Hercules and Atlantis, Atlantis movie. So, for those who remember that movie, that was a really, really good movie done by Disney. You had a whole, it was spooky. I remember watching it when I was a kid, and I thought it was always just kind of eerie, spooky a little bit, and especially in the beginning when she's getting lifted up by the light thing or whatever, and those little head things that are spinning around, and but it's a cool movie, and I just watched it recently. But there's it's really cool how they did the way Atlantis, the way they wanted Atlantis to be, with everybody has those glowing crystals, that they wear around their necks, and then that's how they get everything to start up, so it's like an energy in a sense. But so yeah, and for those who don't know, so Atlantis came from the story of Atlantis begins not with explorers or scientists, but with the philosopher Plato. Around 360 BC, in two dialogues called Timaeus and Critias, Plato describes a powerful island nation beyond the Pillars of Hercules. And that's what it's called, the Strait of Gibraltar now. It's right where Spain and Morocco, they don't touch, but that's where the Mediterranean and the Atlantic meet. So, according to Plato, Atlantis was a grand civilization, sophisticated, wealthy, and well organized. But over time, it became greedy, corrupt, and hungry for power. As punishment, the gods sent earthquakes and floods, and Atlantis was swallowed by the sea in a single day and night. Was this a historical account passed down through Egyptian priests, or a moral allegory, a warning about the dangers of arrogance and imperialism? Where could Atlantis be? Despite the mythical tone, many have searched for a real Atlantis, and over the centuries, dozens of theories have emerged. And we're going to talk about some of those. And, but it's just really fascinating, the story of Atlantis, because, according to what Plato said, and everything, they had magnificent architecture and, technology that we don't even have today. And so, but then it goes missing, and, Plato's saying that, the gods punished them, because they became greedy, corrupt, and everything, and the gods sent earthquakes down, floods, and Atlantis was swallowed up. That could be true. Or maybe another kingdom at the time came in and wiped them out. And the rising ocean just came in and swallowed them up. But let's see. Let's talk about some of these theories and where could Atlantis be? So one of the most popular theory is that it's the island of Santorini, or ancient Thera. Around 1600 BC, a volcanic eruption devastated this advanced Minoan civilization. They had plumbing, art, and maritime power. I mean, that sounds kind of familiar. Others point to southern Spain, where ruins near Cadiz match Plato's circular description of the city. And I've heard that theory. I've seen a documentary about it. And then there's also other theories that it could be somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean or the Caribbean, or even Antarctica. But what if the mystery isn't just about a sunken city, but something much stranger? So another theory I heard is that it was in like modern day Mexico City, but back then during the Aztecs it was called Tenochtitlan, and they were really, the city of Tenochtitlan was, the Aztecs made it. It was on a lake. It was a man-made island that was on a lake, and they built the island and they built they built the whole city on the lake. And then I think these other Aztecs built like another city kind of closer, and they connected with like these land bridges and avenues and everything. And when the conquistador came down, and Cortez, he wrote like an account of everything and the Aztecs, and he said like the avenues, there was like 4 main avenues, and the avenues you could fit 10 horses across one avenue. That's a big city. And I mean, he said there was probably like 2,000 or 200,000 people. That's a big city. And he said it was bigger than Paris at the time, like 1521, I think. And they had like, they had their temples, and they had magnificent architecture, and he said it was or he didn't say it, but it was kind of like Venice, Italy. If anybody's been to Venice or seen Venice, Italy, they have like these avenues of water, and you have to have a canoe to get it, to just travel around, because it's like they act as like streets and stuff, so they don't really have a lot of cars there. And so that's kind of how Tenochtitlan was. They had everybody had their own canoe, kind of like a car, and they just got in their canoe and went to each house or the market or the temple or whatever. But what if they had ancient technology, maybe that was hidden, like Atlantis? You know, so there's a lot of theories out there, but I want to talk about one theory. Everybody knows. If you don't, look it up. But it's called the Bermuda Triangle. So, the Bermuda Triangle, a stretch of ocean infamous for missing ships, vanishing planes, and bizarre compass malfunctions. Could it be connected to Atlantis? Some theories suggest ancient Atlantean technology, crystals, or power generators still rest at the bottom of the sea, interfering with instruments. Others say Atlantis wasn't just an advanced civilization, but a hub of alien contact. UFO sightings in the Triangle, people claim, are tied to the same otherworldly intelligence that guided Atlantis. Psychic Edgar Cayce, I think that's how you say it, even claimed that Atlantis would rise again in the 20th century, and that parts of it were beneath the Bahamas. That's interesting. But yeah, obviously, if anybody's listened to my podcast so far, you guys know that we talk about aliens and everything. But yeah, what if, some huge spacecraft, came down and they taught let's say they went around and taught ancient civilizations, let's say they were in a big ship and they went to ancient Egypt. They taught them how to build the pyramids and how to do farming and agriculture and maybe how to worship or something. And then they're in their mother ship and they go to a next civilization. Let's say ancient, Rome or something. And I know, there's different time periods, but maybe, we don't know if these so-called extraterrestrials, they don't live longer than us. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But, what if they went to, maybe a city that was, some kind of basic city, but it was still huge, and maybe it was some city in the Americas at the time, in the Bermuda Triangle or the Bahamas or something, and maybe they taught them, they gave them some type of energy thing, and then maybe they could draw the energy and make weapons and armor and stuff like that. But yeah, obviously for the Bermuda Triangle, there's always been UFO sightings over the Triangle. Planes go missing, boats go missing, and just weird stuff, happens in the Triangle. Now, we could all say it's just storms. That's probably the most popular theory, is that there's storms and just everybody gets lost in the storm and the planes, they run out of fuel and they just crash. But what if, or the boats sink, during the storm? But a lot of these cases are that it's happening on a perfect day, and just some reason they get lost, away from, either in Florida, they took off from Florida or the Bahamas, and then for some reason they get lost, and they're not heard from or seen from again. And you can't, they tried radioing them, and there's no radio contact at all. But it's an interesting theory. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but in the ocean, in the deep part of the ocean, there's these things called they're called salt, salt pits almost. And what it is it's a abundant amount of salt in the water. It's got a whole bunch of saline, I think that's what it is. And The salt is so dense that it creates a like a protective film or something over like this other layer of the ocean, and it gets cut off from regular seawater, and then it's the super salty water, and it's so salty that fish, like normal fish, can't even go in there. There are some, but they're like special fish and like eels and stuff, and there are some fish that can survive, but most fish, no, they go in there and they die because they'll get stuck. And I mean, it's saltier than the Dead Sea in Israel. It's saltier than that, and it's like 10 times saltier than that. And that's already salty. That's already saltier than the ocean, but it's 10 times saltier than that. And I think they're called salt lakes, I think. And but yeah, what if aliens found a way to get down there, and they just go through it with their ship, and then it leads to like other caverns and caves and tunnels and stuff in the ocean, and then they can just pop up, appear from one location and then pop up at another location using tunnels or whatever. Or what if they're like portals? They just go in and pop out, somewhere across on the other side of the world, because it's a portal, and we would never know because we can't go in there. Because it's so salty. But but no, the Atlantis is. I mean, a lot of people say it's in Greece. I think that might be the most. Like that's where people mostly think it's at. It's in Greece, and because that's where Hercules and everything is. But no, it's just it is fascinating, and the guy Edgar Cayce talks about ancient technology and stuff like that. In the early 20th century, a man known as the Sleeping Prophet began speaking of Atlantis not as a myth, but as a lost reality. Edgar Cayce, a psychic healer from Kentucky, gave hundreds of readings while in trance. In many of them, he described Atlantis as a highly advanced civilization that existed over 10,000 years ago, long before recorded history. He claimed Atlanteans had flying machines, crystals that stored power, and technology that far surpassed even ours today. According to Cayce, it wasn't just a society, it was the source of human advancement. What if, I'm kind of not surprised that we don't have like flying cars and kind of what he's talking about, what Cayce's talking about here with the Atlanteans, stored power, we have technology, but like, what kind of technology that they have? They have flying machines. We have planes and drones and helicopters and then, a whole bunch of flying stuff, but not like Atlantis. Like, I can't take my own flying machine as a citizen and go fly it around, unless, I have like one of those things with the fan on the back and I can, but like, I'm talking about like flying machines, almost like flying cars, but, we don't even have those. And it's funny because people in like the 40s and 50s, even 60s, they thought we would have flying cars by now, but we don't. So, Kaisei said the people of Atlantis split into two factions: the sons of the Law of One, who lived in harmony with the earth, and the sons of Belial, who sought power and control. The conflict between them, he claimed, led to Atlantis' final destruction. Okay, so maybe there was like a war or something between the sons of the Law of One, they lived in harmony with the earth, and the sons of Belial, and maybe the sons of Belial, they killed all the sons of the Law of One who wanted peace, and then they destroyed them all, and then maybe they destroyed Atlantis too as well. But he also predicted that parts of Atlantis would begin to rise again, starting in the Bahamas near Bimini. And in 1968, when strange stone formations were discovered off Bimini's coast, believers saw it as proof the Bimini Road was Atlantean architecture. I've never heard of the Bimini Road, but I want to do some research and see what it is. Okay. So, now this is from Wikipedia. So, the Bimini Road, sometimes called the Bimini Wall, is an underwater rock formation near the island of North Bimini and the Bimini chain of islands. Various claims have been made for this feature being either a wall, a road, a pier, breakwater, or other man-made structure. Although it is generally considered to be a natural occurring geological feature, as is a result of the unusual arrangement and shape of the stones, some believe that the formation is the remains of an ancient road, wall, or some other deliberately constructed feature. For example, articles published by Argosy and either authored or co-authored by Robert F. Marks, a professional diver and visitor to the Bimini Road, argued that the Bimini Road is an artificial structure. In a 1971 Argosy article, Marks reported that Carl H. Home, who was president of Global Oceanic, once a manager for North American Rockwell, a ship designer and retired naval officer, stated that there was little doubt that the massive stone blocks were cut by people. The same article noted that he was part of an expedition sponsored by North American Rockwell that included Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, as leader, Dmitry Rebikov, and a number of psychics from the Edgar Cayce Foundation. Okay, so they think it's like they thought it was like some wall or something like that, road or maybe. But I want to see what other people, think. Because that's why we're, talking about Atlantis. So it's 1,500 feet long, and the stones lie in like an orderly row, and it is believed that this was part of the road system of the lost continent of Atlantis. Interesting. But yeah, no, there's okay, so yeah, there's that theory. And but let's talk about the the most exciting one, which I kind of think this happened with the aliens and stuff. Or the extraterrestrials came down, and maybe they showed a society that was already living in the place, that they were at, and maybe they came down and showed them, like they maybe showed the Egyptians the farming and the agriculture, and I don't know if they would have showed them religion, because what if the extraterrestrials aren't religious, and but what if the Egyptians, I still kind of think they made up their own, and maybe maybe they saw ancient extraterrestrials, and maybe they thought they were gods. But anyway, I digress. So back to Atlantis. So what if the ancient extraterrestrials showed normal man how to farm, some society how to farm, and agriculture and religion? But what if they chose, because maybe those people were like good people and they never went to war, with other tribes or other cities. They never tried to conquer anybody else. And what if they were just peaceful people? And the extraterrestrials maybe wanted to, quote unquote, bless them and kind of not just show them agriculture or farming, or better ways how to farm and agriculture and build, their architecture and stuff. What if they were like, okay, these people, they're good people, they're, they don't go to war with anybody, and they're just, living their lives. And when maybe they've been doing it for 1,000 years or 500 years, and they're like, well, they're not like the Egyptians where they went to war with other people and stuff, or they weren't, they're not like the Sumerians and the Greeks and everybody, or the Romans, man, and so they're like, we're gonna bless them, and we're gonna show them our, what we can do, and what if they gave them some sort of energy, to fly, to maybe healing powers, and to do other stuff that we can't do at all, and naturally with our human body. But if you have their quote unquote crystal, or just their energy source, then you can use it to power the whole city. And maybe they showed them how to make some type of flying machine, and they flew around or whatever, and it's interesting. And let's see, but yeah, so yeah, there's ancient alien connection. Some researchers argue that Atlantis' impossible technology, crystals, anti-gravity aircraft, even gene manipulation, wasn't just human ingenuity, but extraterrestrial influence. And the theory is, we just kind of talked about it, aliens visited early Earth, shared knowledge with the Atlanteans, and either left or were wiped out in the cataclysm. So, in this view, Atlantis, becomes more than a sunken continent. It's the cradle of a hybrid human-alien lineage, and maybe even the origin of ancient astronaut myths found across the globe. The idea of ancient astronauts might sound crazy or wild, but then again, so does a continent vanishing in one night. And, but no, it's fascinating because, for those who don't know, or for those who just kind of think that, we're just alone out here, space is huge. Space is, it's you can't even comprehend it. It's so big. You have all these trillions and trillions of stars with trillions and trillions of galaxies. And you can't even, and we can't even, this is another theory, if we went to the moon or not. If you believe we went to the moon, then you can say, we've only been to the moon. As a human, I mean, if we're on a globe, then you believe, which I think we are, then you believe that, the telescope that we sent out back in Voyager 1 or wherever it is all the way past our solar system. And that's the furthest we've gone, without a man in it, in the spacecraft or whatever. But that's nothing. Compared to the vastness of space, it doesn't, if I were an ancient or just an alien or extraterrestrial and I seen that, and let's say maybe that me as an extraterrestrial, we're more advanced and we can fly light years and light years, and I seen that, I would think, they're just babies, the human race are just babies. They barely not even begin to scratch the surface of the universe. And so maybe I send out, a squadron or maybe a mothership, if you will, to Earth. And I'm like, go check out that planet, maybe go see if they need help. Because a lot of people may think that all extraterrestrials are bad. But what if they're good? What if they're kind of doing the same thing that we would want to do? I don't know. For those who watch Star Trek and everything, the main purpose of their mission was to explore. They're explorers. So what is to say that the extraterrestrials are not? Are too. They're explorers also. And they're just like, okay, go send out, a mothership with other tiny ships also, inside of it or whatever. And go send out them, go out there, maybe their mission is to kind of plant their feet, so to speak, on our planet throughout generations. What if they sent this mission 1,000,000 years ago? Or 1,000 years ago? Not 1,000,000 years ago, or thousands of years ago. And what if go to that planet and your mission is to kind of mingle and be amongst the humans, but just kind of be with them, and we'll see how everything goes, whether they evolve or they don't. Just kind of see what they do, and hopefully, for however long it takes, and then you have flash forward to what Plato was talking about, the year 560, I think, BC, and you have ancient extraterrestrials who were living at that time in the timeline, in our timeline, and their timeline. And who knows, we don't know how long these extraterrestrials live. Maybe they live thousands of years, maybe they live like we do, 80 years, if you will, then they die, and then another one is born. But they've been doing that for thousands of years, or 1,000,000 years, or whatever. And so back to Plato, and the extraterrestrials come, and they kind of help. They help out some city that's been in peace for maybe 500 years or whatever. And they're like, we're going to show them not just how to better farm or how to better agriculture, or, we'll let them do their own architecture and everything, but we'll help them, but then we'll also give them our energy source that we have. not necessarily magic or power, but it's just their energy source. Because we as humans have an energy source as well. And what if they do? But maybe they've learned to harness the energy, and help to power where they live. Who knows if they have cities? Maybe not everything that's futuristic. Because kind of when we think about like aliens on other worlds, I think of some big structures and future-like cities and everything. But what if they don't even have those? What if they live in their own kind of tribe, so to speak? But who knows? And what if they showed these people, how to harness the energy and how to make their own flying machines and whatnot. But then maybe they told the people, or they told the king or whoever was in charge of that city. They're like, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you our energy source that we have. And I guess maybe to them it was like power, but it's energy. And what if they're like, we're going to show you this energy, and you're going to be able to do unimaginable things with it. But the catch is you can't tell anybody. You have to leave it just inside this city. It's got to be sacred. It's got to be secret. And it can't, go out. And you can't tell anybody else. And we'll be watching you. And if you do tell somebody else, we'll take it away. Because maybe the extraterrestrials just kind of want to, experiment, with the city, with the people and everything, to see what they're going to do with, the energy. And maybe they just kind of showed them how to harness it and everything and what they can kind of do. But maybe what if the people built their own ships, flying machines, their own city. They had quote unquote electricity, and then what if something happened, and there was maybe they turned evil, maybe they got greedy, and they were like, oh yes, like we have this power, we can do so much now. We can go conquer, this another city and just totally wipe them out. Maybe they had, advanced weapons and everything. And then the people, the extraterrestrials, what if they called themselves like, Atlanteans, if you will. And then the people were like, okay, we'll name our city Atlantis. Even though I think that's like a Greek name, so maybe it was something else. But what if they got greedy and started, turning against each other, or maybe trying to leave and tell other people, or try to, go and fight with another another city or tribe or whatever. And the extraterrestrials were like, okay, here's what we gotta do now, because it's getting out of hand, so now we have to destroy them. And so they send a wave, or they do something maybe, and they just maybe they just attack the city, and they just destroy the whole city. And then that's what you have, you have the ruins, of Atlantis strewn across, the seabed. But whether Atlantis was a real place or a philosophical metaphor or something even stranger, one thing is clear: it continues to captivate us. Maybe, just maybe, it's the mystery of what we lost, or the dream of a civilization greater than our own. But in chasing Atlantis, we're also chasing something deeper, a reflection of ourselves, our hopes, our warnings, and our need to believe in something more. Thanks for exploring the depths with me. I'm Tyler, and this is the Wild Archive. If you got theories, stories, or thoughts about Atlantis, or anything else that dwells in the unknown, reach out to me. But until next time, stay curious and don't forget to look beneath the surface.